As the title suggests, I've been feeling lost in life for quite some time. I had just quit my job in marketing and advertising. Interacting with the real world was something I couldn't do. I really needed to just venture out on my own, and this for me was like the stuff made of nightmares. Looking back, as 15-year-olds, we really had no business reading such books. Hello, I'm Stacy and welcome back to my channel. Recently, I've noticed a lot of booktubers doing the BookTube Newbie Tag where they answer a bunch of questions related to being a booktuber. As a new booktuber myself, I realized that I hadn't done this, so I looked up the questions and here we are. Welcome to my BookTube Newbie Tag. Now there are 12 questions, so I'm just gonna go through them in the order that I found them. I found them on some random site. I don't know if I saved it, but if I didn't, here are the questions. Question 1 is, what's my name and what's the meaning of my name? So my full name, or the two names that I use for this channel, are stacykinyanjuibusiness, and I'm not really sure what either of them means because I've never really bothered to look them up, so let's do that. The only thing that I do know about my name, specifically the name Stacy, is that Stacy is a unisex name in some countries, but in my country it's a name for girls. Okay, so according to Google, I just searched meaning of the name Stacy. It says Stacy is a gender-neutral name of Greek origin that comes steeped in history. Stacy derives from the names Eustace, meaning steadfast, fruitful, and Anastasia, meaning resurrection. Initially a boy's name, Stacy began as a chic nickname for Eustace, a title brought to England during the Norman conquest of 1066. Now, Stacy made its debut as a girl's name in the US in 1949 before soaring into popularity. By the 1990s, Stacy was primarily a feminine title, but has since taken a step away from the chart. Another meaning of this name is fruitful, perfect for a productive child who is ready to take the world in their hands. After the song Stacy's mom went viral back in the 2000s, who wouldn't want to be this little star's parent? You know, I'm still waiting for the day that somebody releases a name where Stacy is the main character instead of Stacy's mom and what was the other one? Stacy's boyfriend? Like, can Stacy be the main character for once? So let's look up what Kinyanjuibusiness means. That is, if Google has information on a Kenyan name. Okay, so I'm on a site called 7 Reflections. If you can see my laptop and it happens to have fingerprints, just ignore that, you didn't see anything. So Kinyanjuibusiness means extreme in fortune, health, and spirituality. You are very versatile, idealistic, and intuitive. You either enjoy great success or suffer abject misery. The solution is service to others. Use your leadership abilities for humanity and not for self-gratification. You are intuitive and might be interested in the arts, drama, or science. You find the best contentment in life when you own your own home and provide well for your family and loved ones. You have a great sense of responsibility and duty. You are comforting, appreciative, and affectionate. Your obligation in life is to hold justice and truth, and if you follow the law, you can find great happiness and satisfaction. It's like 99% accurate in terms of like describing my character, so that is weird. Question 2 is, why did you start this channel? As the title suggests, I've been feeling lost in life for quite some time. So I started this channel to explore my interests and hopefully find clarity in the direction that I want my life to take. When I launched this channel, I had just quit my job in marketing and advertising, and I basically was transitioning from being in a 9-to-5 to working as a freelancer on a remote basis. At that time, I felt like I really needed to just venture out on my own, and the beginning was very intimidating, but I feel like over time I've found a calm space to exist in, and that is allowing me to enjoy the process, exercise lots and lots of patience, and just trust the journey. If you've been a subscriber since the beginning, you'll notice that I've been posting a lot of different content, and through that process, I've been exploring different things that interest me. As my journey has progressed, I've been able to find my core passion, and that is storytelling and books. Now that I've figured that out, I want to explore the BookTube community here on YouTube and just connect with fellow bookish people. In general, I'm excited and I'm open to wherever this journey will take me. And now we're on to question 3. So question 3 says, what are some fun and unique things you can bring to YouTube? I think one of the fun and unique elements that I can bring to YouTube is myself. I enjoy watching booktubers share their thoughts on what they've been reading. Often you'll find multiple booktubers discussing the same book, but each of them brings a unique perspective and a distinct way of expressing their thoughts. Personally, I think this is what makes it fun and interesting to consume bookish content, because you don't know how somebody will interpret something or the outlook they're going to have on it. Because of that individuality, you get to see different viewpoints and learn something new through someone's unique interpretation of the books that they read. So my approach to BookTube is simply being myself. I hope that my voice and my reflections on books that I read will resonate with people, influence the BookTube community in a positive way, and simply help me connect with other bookish individuals. And now it's question 4, which is, what are you most excited about for this new channel? Technically, my channel isn't new, but my decision to do bookish content is, so let's answer the question anyway. Starting this channel is a way of self-discovery, so I'm excited to see where this will lead me and how I will grow as a person. In addition to that, I'm also excited to be intentionally reading. I'm excited to see what kind of stories I'll come across, the authors whose writing will just touch my heart, and their stories will never leave my memories, and I don't know how they will influence me. Question 5 is, why do you love reading? Over the years, I've had different answers to this question. As a kid, I think I was the quiet one, always lost in my own world and maybe appearing aloof to the people around me. So stories sparked my imagination and kept me company when interacting with the real world was something I couldn't do. As a teenager, life was confusing, as it is for a lot of people. Personally, I never felt like I had a sense of self. So as opposed to exerting myself, I think I found some solace in just engaging with the world in books and engaging with characters in books who were fully fleshed out. They were their own person, and they had a journey. There was a beginning, a middle, and an end, and they knew how to get there. But despite the overall sense of feeling lost, there were of course happy moments too. It was a fun, confusing, happy experience, and books were my refuge at that time. As an adult, my inclination towards reading is driven by how books shed light on the human existence. I particularly enjoy slice of life books, but at this time, I'm still exploring storytelling as a whole and the various genres that it encompasses. Mostly, I'm drawn to books that take ordinary and simple aspects of life and reveal the beauty within them. Question 6 is, what book or series got you into reading? I don't have a specific book or series that got me into reading. I think all of my on and off reading experiences collectively led me back to realizing my love for reading. During my childhood, I read a lot of Enid Blyton books, and the worlds that she created were just fascinating at that time. To this day, I cannot tell you what the story was about. I cannot even tell you what the name of the book was. I just know there was a land there called the land of Topsy-Turvy, and I was mesmerized. There was nothing even fascinating. I think the thing that made it unique was that everybody there was upside down. So I guess gravity worked in its own way, but people there functioned by moving around in an upside down way. That's why it was called the land of Topsy-Turvy. And I think there was an elf. I don't know if the elf was the main character, or maybe there was a boy or a child who was the main character. But all I can remember is the land of topsy-turvy and this magical tree. I don't know if it's the same book that had the land of topsy-turvy or it's a different one that had a huge magical tree. I can't even remember the details of what made it magical. I am left with a feeling that it was a magical tree and it was beautiful and it was big, similar to like the tree in Jack and the Beanstalk. Yeah, except I don't know, there was something unique about this one, and I can't tell you the name of which book it was. If anybody read Enid Blyton as a kid and you remember the things I'm mentioning, tell me the story that had those details. Later on, I got into Goosebumps and I read a lot of that. I remember I was so into the Goosebumps books that I desperately wanted friends to like share this passion with. So a new neighbor moved into my place and this kid, he seemed like he was interested in reading. So I let him borrow some of my Goosebumps books. And I was waiting for the day he would come back and tell me. I read them and then we could talk about it. And then all of a sudden, his family packed up and moved without telling anyone. And he never came back to return my books. I felt so betrayed because how can you steal somebody else's books? You cannot be like a book lover and then steal somebody else's books. That is a memory that I always have. And, you know, I used to think it wasn't a big deal, but considering that I remember it till now, I was deeply hurt, clearly. That is just so mean. And yeah, my expectations of having like somebody to talk about books with never came true. Instead, a book thief is what I got to experience. As a teenager, I was into a lot of romantic and steamy love stories, which at the time I did not realize were referred to as smart. Books with this kind of theme were like everything back when I was in high school. When somebody found like a good book, it used to be passed around to anyone who's interested. And then you would find like cliques or groups of people just discussing the story. Again, this is only for the readers, I think. In my mind, it was like everyone who was into it, but now that I think about it, I think it's only for the people who are actually interested in stories. I remember I loved a lot of like supernatural stories that included love, included a lot of high stakes, and the ending just had to be a happy ending. Aside from that, I also fell for the common trope of like the billionaire trope. So even though we had no business reading this, books like 50 Shades were all over my school, and books like, there is this book that I had, and it was called Bared to You by Sylvia Day. I don't know where that book went, but I was obsessed with it, and I would give that book to anyone who wanted to listen to me and actually go and read the book. These stories fascinated me and my friends, but looking back as 15-year-olds, we really had no business reading such books. During my university years, I really did not read at all unless it was related to my coursework or related to the jobs that I had taken on at that time. But once I got like my first real job, I remember on Fridays, because I was too tired to like meet up with my friends, but I also wanted to have something entertaining to do when I get home. I would go to my favorite bookstore. Once I got off work, I would go to my favorite bookstore and spend, I genuinely think it was hours just walking around, looking at each aisle and looking at the books that they have before I would finally go to the books for sale section and buy my supernatural fantasy romance books for like 300 shillings, which I think if you convert that, it could be like $30. Wait, $3? It could be like around $3 or maybe even less. I bought a lot of these books on sale because I couldn't afford anything else. I definitely couldn't afford the new books because they were pricey, very pricey, and my first salary could not handle that kind of lifestyle. So I looked for those books. I just wanted to see if I still had them. So I found some of them, and let me just go get them. So these are the books that I used to buy, and now that I look at them, I realize I was trying to like reconnect with the books that I used to read in high school, because the books that I used to read in high school had authors that used to write the same genre, Actually, in high school, I read a lot of Sherilyn Kenyon, and I think in high school, my favorite book was by Sherilyn Kenyon, and it was called, was it Duck Hunter? Dad's to You. Okay, I forgot the name. If I remember, I'm gonna put it like somewhere on the screen. But that was that one book that was just my everything. And after reading that book, everything else that I was reading, I was chasing the feeling that I got from reading that book by Sherilyn Kenyon. Okay, question 7, guys. So, what question would you ask your favorite booktubers? If I had a chance, I think I would ask them how they started their booktube journey, what made them fall in love with books, and how they managed to stay so consistent with posting content. Most, if not all, booktubers post at least one video a week, and a lot of these videos are usually back-to-back book reviews of multiple books. I am a slow reader, so it does take me a while to finish one book, and because of this, I think it will be interesting to know what kind of routines they have, how they manage their time, especially because a lot of them have 9-to-5 jobs. It really does blow my mind how they can be so consistent in their reading and in their content creation. So question 8 is, what challenges do you think starting a booktube channel will be the hardest to overcome? I honestly haven't given this much thought. I think for the most part, the only thing I've thought about, or the plan that I've come up with, is to just try different things, post as much content as you can, and look for small ways to improve. Of course, that's now changing because I can try different things within bookish content, but I'm not going to be doing other content like I used to before. If I think about it now, I think for me it would be increasing my reading speed and also just challenging myself in how I analyze the books that I read and how I review them. Question 9 is, when did you start reading? I started reading as soon as I learned how to read and write. I mean, isn't that when everybody starts reading? As far as I can remember, English courses were always paired with sad books. So the back cover of any English textbook for any grade used to have images of book recommendations that parents were always encouraged to buy for their kids. So my parents used to buy for me some of those books, and those are the fiction books that I would read. Honestly, I can't remember any of the stories except for one, and that is because it scared me so much. I used to have nightmares. The book was called Sepoy and the Ogre, and I know for sure right now if I read it, it wouldn't affect me in any way, but as a kid, that stuff was scary. I mean, I read Goosebumps later on when I got older, but Goosebumps never scared me at all. But this for me was like the stuff made of nightmares. Question number 10 is, where do you read? Currently, I mostly read in my room, and I use my phone or my laptop. On both devices, I like to read books paired with audiobooks. So I'll buy an audiobook and also have a soft copy version of the book, so I usually follow along as I'm listening to the audio. Although I am thinking about getting a Kindle or just a type of e-reader, but we'll see. Right now it's mostly on my laptop and on my phone. Question 11 is, what kind of books do you like? I enjoy anything that gives you like a slice of life kind of story, but right now, like I said, I'm still in my explorative phase. So I think I'm open to reading anything and everything except for thriller and horror. Although when it comes to thriller, I've seen a book like Yellowface being categorized as that. And if Yellowface is a thriller, then I guess I'm also okay with thrillers because I read the book and I really liked it. Some of the books that I've read and loved because it felt like they were grounded in reality are On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous, Before the Coffee Gets Cold, A Man Called Ovi, and Open Water. I don't know if these books can be called slice of life, but that's what they made me feel, like they were grounded in a lot of reality and in a lot of human experiences. And the last question, question 12. What does your book collection look like? I read ebooks or soft copy books, so I do not really have a physical collection of books. I think the only physical book that I currently have right now is Becoming Michelle Obama. Let me see if I have the copy.
A few moments later.
I do have the copy. What am I talking about? I know exactly where it is. So, just a minute. Ta-da! The first book that I ever did a book review on. I think the video was very cringe, but I'm still proud of it. I'm proud of the video, and I'm proud of myself for reading such a huge book. Aside from Becoming Michelle Obama, I do have another collection of books, which is these books. Oh my god. A Passion for Hell. Couldn't tell you what it's about, but it has the author Sylvia Day, who also wrote Bad to You, which is a story that is somewhat similar to 50 Shades of Grey. And then another book by Sylvia Day. This one is called A Hunger So Wild. I can't tell you what any of these books are about. Maybe if I read the book blurb, I'll remember like what the story was about. But yeah, I loved them, and as you can see, all over 400 Kenya shillings. 400 Kenya shillings each. So that's like, I think that's around $4 if I'm not wrong. A Passion for the Game, again by Sylvia Day. And this was also 400 Kenya shillings. Pleasure Unbound, and I think some of them were 400 shillings, others were 300 shillings if I remember correctly. So Pleasure Unbound, these are the books I used to buy just to come home and read on a Friday night. A Touch of Crimson, 400, again Sylvia Day. And my favorite author back when I was in high school, Charlene Kenyon. I hope I'm not even butchering the pronunciation of her name. I think it's Charlene Kenyon, and if it's not, then oops, I'll get it right the next time. But anyway, Bad Moon Rising. This one I remember it because I think it featured werewolves and bears. So it was about a guy who was a werewolf and a girl who was a bear. Obviously, the two breeds, animals, are enemies. They never mix. So it was somewhat like forbidden love. And then there was like other powerful beings, like, were they angels or something? They were just people who could control the world or the planets. I mean, there was a lot going on in this book, but it was amazing. I had the time of my life reading this one. That was fun to film, and if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. If you're looking for bookish content, make sure to subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and leave me a comment below.